Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're talking about an icon etched in the sky, a fearsome symbol of Soviet air power, and the most produced supersonic jet in history, the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-21. For over 60 years, its simple, rugged design has been used by more than 60 countries, becoming the ubiquitous adversary for Western pilots, from the skies of Cold War Europe to the dogfights over Vietnam and the Middle East. This is the story of the MiG-21, a lightweight fighter born from the lessons of the Korean War, a machine that could climb like a rocket and became a legend of aviation. The story begins in the early 1950s, in the shadow of the Korean War. The duels between the Soviet-made MiG-15 and the American F-86 Sabre taught Soviet designers that the future of air combat demanded speed and a high rate of climb. While the supersonic MiG-19 was a step forward, the Mikoyan-Gurevich Design Bureau was already working on a more advanced, lightweight fighter capable of reaching Mach 2. The initial prototype, the YE-2, featured conventional swept wings, but engineers were also developing a parallel version with a radical new delta wing, the YE-4, which first flew on June 16, 1955. The delta wing offered low drag at supersonic speeds, perfect for a fast-climbing interceptor. After comparative tests, the delta wing design proved superior. A later prototype, the YE-6, officially broke the Mach 2 barrier, solidifying the design's potential. The result was an aircraft built for pure performance. Its most iconic feature was the nose-mounted air intake, with a prominent central shock cone. This cone wasn't just for looks. It automatically moved forward at high speeds to slow incoming air to subsonic levels for the engine, ensuring maximum efficiency. But this design came with a crucial trade-off. It left very little space for a large, powerful radar, a limitation that would define the MiG-21's entire life. The new aircraft entered service with the Soviet Air Forces in 1959 as the MiG-21F. It was precisely what Soviet doctrine required: a simple, affordable point defense interceptor designed for a rapid scramble, guided by ground-controlled interception, to engage enemy bombers and quickly return to base. This philosophy of simplicity and mass production would make the MiG-21 the AK-47 of the skies. The MiG-21 was not a single aircraft but a vast family of evolving variants, categorized into 4 generations. The first generation, the MiG-21F and F-13, were pure daylight interceptors. They were minimalist machines, equipped only with a basic radar rangefinder. Armament consisted of a single 30mm cannon and 2 K-13 air-to-air missiles. The K-13, known by NATO as the Atoll, was a direct, reverse-engineered copy of the American AIM-9 Sidewinder. The Soviets acquired the technology after a Taiwanese F-86 fired a Sidewinder that lodged, unexploded, in the fuselage of a Chinese MiG-17 in 1958. These early MiGs were light and agile, but their lack of a proper search radar limited them to clear-weather missions. The second generation, beginning with the MiG-21PF in the early 1960s, sought to fix this. The intake cone was enlarged to house an R-1L search-and-track radar, giving the aircraft an all-weather capability. However, to accommodate the new electronics, the internal cannon was removed, leaving the PF armed only with missiles. This proved unpopular. Later versions, like the MiG-21 PFM, brought back the gun, but in an underbelly pod containing a 23mm twin-barrel cannon. The third generation, arriving in the late 1960s, transformed the MiG-21 into a multi-role fighter. The MiG-21S featured an upgraded SAP-FIR-21 radar, a more powerful engine, and 4 underwing hardpoints instead of 2. This allowed it to carry a mix of fuel tanks, bombs, and new radar homing missiles. The most successful export version was the MiG-21MF, which had a built-in cannon and could carry the new R-60 or AFID, a highly agile dogfighting missile that was a significant threat. This generation also saw an attempt to fix the MiG's notoriously short range. The MiG-21 SMT featured a massively enlarged dorsal spine to hold more fuel. This fat spine variant was unpopular with pilots, as it negatively affected agility, and many were later retrofitted to a smaller spine configuration. The final Soviet production variant was the MiG-21 bis, which entered service in 1972. While looking similar to its predecessors, the bis was a thoroughly redesigned and strengthened aircraft optimized for dogfighting. Its most significant upgrade was the Tumansky R-25-300 engine. This powerful engine had a unique emergency afterburner setting that could dramatically increase thrust for up to 3 minutes, giving the MiG-21 bis a thrust-to-weight ratio better than 1:1 in some conditions, putting its climb rate on par with the much later F-16A. The MiG-21's legacy was forged in combat. The skies over North Vietnam were where it cemented its legendary status. Facing the much larger and more technologically advanced American F-4 Phantom II, the Vietnam People's Air Force turned the MiG-21's disadvantages into strengths. Guided by a sophisticated network of ground-controlled interception radar, Vietnamese pilots perfected guerrilla warfare in the air. They avoided prolonged dogfights, instead using GCI controllers to vector them into ambush positions. The MiG pilots would execute a single, high-speed slashing attack, firing their missiles, and then using the MiG-21's superb acceleration and climb rate to disengage before the Phantoms could retaliate. The MiG-21's small size made it incredibly difficult to spot, while the F-4's powerful engines produced a thick black smoke trail, making it visible from miles away. The effectiveness of these tactics shocked the U.S. military and was a primary catalyst for the creation of the U.S. Navy's Top Gun fighter weapons school in 1969. In the Middle East, the MiG-21 was a mainstay of Arab air forces against Israel. Though the Israeli Air Force destroyed most of them on the ground during the 1967 Six-Day War, the MiGs that did get airborne proved to be formidable opponents. During the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Egyptian and Syrian MiG-21MFs engaged in large-scale aerial battles. While Israeli pilots generally maintained superiority, the MiG-21s scored numerous kills. A major intelligence coup for Israel occurred in 1966 with Operation Diamond, where Mossad convinced an Iraqi pilot to defect with his MiG-21. This gave the Israelis, and later the Americans, an invaluable opportunity to study the aircraft's capabilities and develop tactics to counter it. India became one of the largest operators of the MiG-21, where it was nicknamed Vikram. During the 1971 Indo-Pakistani War, the MiG-21 Florida variant was instrumental in establishing air superiority. The war saw the first supersonic air combat on the subcontinent when an Indian MiG-21 Florida shot down a Pakistani F-104 starfighter using its cannon. The MiG-21's global proliferation was aided by licensed production. Czechoslovakia built nearly 200 units, while India's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited built over 650 MiGs of various types. But the most significant foreign variant was not licensed, but reverse-engineered. Following the Sino-Soviet split in the early 1960s, China painstakingly reverse-engineered the MiG-21 F-13 to create the Chengdu J-7. The J-7 evolved into its own distinct family, with over 400 built. Later versions featured Chinese and even Western upgrades, like new wings and Italian radars, becoming a major competitor to Soviet-made MiGs on the export market. For pilots, flying the MiG-21, often nicknamed the Pencil for its long, thin shape, was a demanding experience. The first impression was its astonishing speed and acceleration, but this performance came with challenges. The cockpit was cramped with poor rear visibility. The delta wing, while great for speed, bled energy rapidly in sustained turns. But the most demanding part was landing. Its small wings required a very high landing speed, around 350 kilometers per hour. Pilots had to fly a precise, shallow approach, essentially flying the aircraft directly onto the runway. This, combined with its use as a trainer for new supersonic pilots, contributed to a high accident rate in some air forces. In India, the MiG-21's long service and numerous crashes earned it the grim nicknames Flying Coffin and Widowmaker, with over 400 aircraft lost in accidents over several decades. However, many analysts argue this reputation is unfair, attributing the high numbers to the fact that the MiG-21 was the backbone of the Indian Air Force for so long and was flown far more extensively than any other type. The fall of the Soviet Union did not spell the end for the fishbed. Its robust airframe made it a prime candidate for modernization. Romania, with help from Israel, upgraded its fleet into the Lancer variant, equipping them with modern avionics, a glass cockpit, and the ability to carry Western weapons. The Indian Air Force created the MiG-21 Bison, integrating a powerful new radar and the ability to fire modern beyond visual range missiles, transforming the 1970s Interceptor into a credible threat well into the 21st century. The MiG-21 is more than just hardware. It is an aviation phenomenon. It was the first successful Soviet aircraft to combine fighter and interceptor roles in one machine. Its simple, cost-effective design brought Mach 2 performance to dozens of nations that could never have afforded more complex Western fighters, fundamentally altering the global balance of air power. Today, 7 decades after its first flight, the MiG-21's operational service is finally drawing to a close, yet its legacy is indelible. Fast, agile, and brutally simple, the MiG-21 was a supersonic legend that not only witnessed history, but actively shaped it, leaving an unmistakable contrail across the skies of the Cold War. Thank you for listening to G Fun Facts Online.